Welcome to Women of Power. My name is Laura Topper, and I'm feeling excited, feeling humbled, feeling grateful, and feeling ready for this broadcast today. Women of Power around the world. Yes, gathering and knowing in our hearts who we are, what it is we're here to do, and what that greater purpose is for our lives. Welcome here. Wherever you are, if you're here right now, whenever that is, you found this and this is perfect for you. Today, I feel really inspired to talk about passion, passion for our lives, passion for what we're doing, passion for who we are, connecting with that sense and knowing and depth of passion for the experience of this life, even when it feels like we just want to get under the duvet. And that can happen quite regularly. So welcome here. Welcome to this broadcast. I'm here every other week on a Tuesday at this time on New Thought Media Network. My name is Laura Topper, and I'm here really sharing for women and those that identify as women, for each and every one of us that identify with the divine feminine within us, knowing that now is the time for us to flow, where competition is no longer needed, where we can collaborate, where we can open up as loving leaders, leading from that place of love, knowing the truth, knowing that we're here to join heart to heart and to be creative and share with these ideas that we have to bring our work into the world and prosper financially. And last time this show was on, Reverend Cheryl came on and talked about money. And I feel this is such an important topic because it's really connected to passion, and it's really connected to our own understanding of our identity of who we are. And I'm not talking about, our spiritual identity as human beings. When we feel that we are supporting ourselves, where we are stabilizing ourselves, where we can be in the prosperous flow for our own lives with the work that we're here to do in the world, which is immense and it is love filled. When we have that feeling and that knowing in the depths of who we are, we then open up portals where we can actually engage with life in a different way. We can engage with life in a way that's saying, yeah, I'm ready to serve bigger, to play at a higher level with life, and to really fully embrace with these wonderful creative projects and passion projects that we have to bring out into the world right now, because we're being called to be that change. And being that change in these times means being available, being available with resources, with resilience, with a reservoir within, where we know that we can pull on that and bring our dreams into fruition, into reality. So we're the ones that are being called to be prepared and to be ready. And I've said this for a while. 2023, I believe, is the time where we've got to be ready for then. I mean, of course, in the mind of the divine, there is no time, there is no space. At any moment, anything happens spontaneously. And it does, because for me, this has been happening in ways that I can't even imagine in the past couple of months. And the passionate piece, I think, is so integral here. As I tune into a deeper passion for my life and what it is I'm bringing to the world and how I feel about life, then I see things changing in really quite incredible ways. So let's tap into this idea of passion. And I want to talk about a woman of power who I believe held a position of responsibility for many years and did so with such dignity and integrity. Although, there were so many different points of view about her leadership. And yet, if I look at her overall kind of body of work and how she was in the world, then I can actually look at that and say, wow, what dedication, what devotion to being that person that was shining the light and staying in her truth, devoted and committed with such responsibility for what it was she was doing in the world. And this was Queen Elizabeth II. Whether we agree with monarchy or not, whether we agree with a reigning queen over one country for 70 years or not, I believe that I can look in my heart and say, I may not agree with all of the facets of established monarchy, and yet I can see this person for her belief and her devotion, and how she committed herself, she devoted and dedicated herself to the role that was bestowed upon her, and she did not flinch. Day after day after day. And when I read about her and hear about her and hear the things that she was committed to and devoted to, these are the aspects that I look up to in terms of her work ethic and incredible persistence and resourcefulness to keep going, even at times where things may not have been looking so good for her, or there may not have been the press coverage that was shining her light in the best of ways. I see this woman as a woman of power, somebody that has left a legacy of how to show up with that peace that we are devoted to for bringing forwards for our lives, whether it's a ministry, whether it's a business, whether it's a creative project, whether it is a nonprofit, whether it is a social enterprise business. It doesn't matter whether it's our child, whether it's ourselves. We have a responsibility to show up fully, passionately for what it is that we truly believe in. And this is what I see with Queen Elizabeth II, her passion within for being that leader when it didn't always look pretty. It didn't always look like hearts and flowers and rainbows. It didn't always look as if it was in her favor and for her favor. And yet, when I see the overall picture, I see a woman who was so powerfully aligned to her vision, so passionately aligned to her vision of goodness, of greatness, of doing good work in the world, of inspiring people, of being devoted to so many causes and charities. And I think I read somewhere that at the age of 81, she turned up to 292 national events, charitable causes and events and things that were helping people to see the light of who they are. Now, at 81, that's incredible. I mean, she didn't stop. And not because I believe that she felt that she had to. Maybe there was that. She had to, as the queen, the ruling queen of the UK. And I also believe that she felt it was her responsibility to. And so she showed up in that light of this is what I'm doing. This is what I've been assigned. This is my divine assignment. She knew what her divine assignment was, and she just did it so willingly and so gracefully. So where are we doing this in our lives as women of power? Where can we model these attributes, these pieces that this particular individual is mirroring back to me right now, and maybe possibly to you? Where is it that we can see in our lives, well, I could really go full in with this, whatever it is that I'm believing in and want to do for my life, to go absolutely full pelt in with it and just love it and embody it and embrace it and let ourselves wallow so passionately in what it is that we want to bring forwards to this life. What is holding us back, if there is anything? Whatever stage we're at, though, I mean, we have a mental equivalent. We each have a mental equivalent, which is almost like a set point. And so it can be quite easy to settle into just below that mental equivalent. And maybe a victim story comes up. I'm not good enough. It never happens for me. I'm not worthy enough. It'll never be me. Nobody believes in me. I don't believe in me. I mean, there are 1,000 million different stories that we've told ourselves over the years, and that we still on some level continue to tell ourselves. And I believe that our work right now, this really important work, is to get to the spiritual truth of who we are. As I heard August Gold say in a really profound talk that she gave, I think it was called Throwing Away the Script or Tearing Up the Script. Well, she started that talk by saying there's only ever one thing wrong. There's only ever one thing that's wrong here. And she didn't give away the answer until the end of her talk. And yet I knew where she was steering it to and what it was, that one thing. And the one thing is this erroneous idea of separation, that we're separate from ourselves, that we're separate from God, the divine, that we're separate from each other, that we are so individualized that we don't have an effect on ourselves or on each other or on our country or our universe or our multiverses. We don't fully believe this. And then we believe maybe that we do have an effect and it's not good because we're not good enough. And so we're not actually then producing and mirroring, bringing back into our lives that beautiful flow, because we don't believe in ourselves. So assignment here, I would say, is to really, really take a look at our belief system of who and whose we think we are. Let's breathe into this. Because doing that inner work, going deep within, can feel scary. It can feel pointless sometimes. If we've been brought up to believe that everything is about what we're doing in the world and not what we're being, everything is about how we're showing up from a material perspective and not how we're showing up within. If we've been taught to believe that meditation and prayer work and inner contemplation is not even really necessary or part of the remit of our day for a good, solid connection to the divine, then it can feel alienating to then put this practice into practice, to put these practices in and to start questioning the idea of life. And yet, when we do begin to question and when we do begin to get closer to who we are, our world changes, it transforms, because we become more used to taking those leaps of faith. And we've got to have that passion. We've got to have that desire, as Edwin Gaines stated, the woman of power that I turn to in my mind when I think of her. And she says, that desire is the onward pulsation of the soul wanting to know itself. And that takes a passion within, that kind of fire burning within, where we know this is it. This is who I am, and this is what I'm here to do. No matter what, nothing is going to stop me. This is a true woman of power. A true woman of power. So whether we're making a cake, or whether we are changing the world, or whether we are fully engaged with our child, or whether we're fully engaged with our inner child, or whether we're writing a blog, or whether we're doing a financial transaction for the services and the work that we're giving out into the world for the betterment of humanity, or whether we're having a difficult conversation. This is about the passion within, the belief that we have in ourselves, and the idea that we are not separate, we are not alone, and that there is one thing happening, and this one thing is the fullness of love, all givingness, all goodness, that is seeking to express itself in, as, and through everything for the highest and best of all. So I want to bring this up because this is I was really feeling into a question that I asked myself recently. What does it mean really to be a woman of power? What does it actually mean? I can say, oh yeah, I'm a woman of power. She is a woman of power. We are women of power. What do I mean by this? And what does it feel? What is the meaning behind it? It certainly doesn't mean an all-powerful, egotistical, manipulating person who wants to change or puts a lot of effort into trying to change external circumstances and others to get our own way or to get something. That is not what I mean by women of power. And as I said earlier, a woman of power is for somebody who identifies, I mean it as somebody who identifies with the divine feminine within, regardless of gender identity. That's not important. This is another kind of identification, the feminine, the flow, the ease, the grace, the knowing that there is another way now that we're being fully called into. So rather than struggle and pounding and trying to make things happen, this is about allowing and accepting and knowing the power that we are and how we can use that power in the most graceful and heartfelt and meaningful of ways, leading with immense love. And that takes passion, courage, and a leap of faith. So I've just written down a few things here. A woman of power prioritizes self-awareness as the center of personal and spiritual advancement. Prioritizes self-awareness at the center of personal and spiritual advancement. So that means double checking on ourselves, becoming aware of our thoughts, feelings, actions, behaviors, self-talk, outer talk, inner talk, outer talk, habits, reprogramming patterns, becoming fully aware of the conversation that we're having, the dialogue that we're having with ourselves and with others, moment by moment. Now, who here has that level of awareness? It's a practice. It takes practice, and it takes a yes. It takes a decision to make that decision, to become so willing to be fully aware of who I am and whose I am, and to do the spiritual practice. I think this is the first piece here. Awareness. And then to embody a devoted spiritual practice. To embody a practice and to commit to this and to be present with it. And whatever it is, to not judge it. And to allow that practice to shift and change, and yet have the foundations of that in place daily, daily, daily. I've spoken to a few recently in conversations on the cosmic prayer, in Women of Power, in Wisdom of the Mystics. And I've heard this coming up quite a lot. You know, spiritual practice is our fitness. We're in the gym, flexing the muscles, lifting the weights, and we don't just do it once, because that would be really ridiculous to go to the gym once and say, I've done it. I mean, that's even more ridiculous than not going to the gym, which is what I do. I need to get to the gym. I'm practicing here. And yet I do have my inner fitness, my spiritual fitness, the body temple I'm being called to look after a little bit more, a lot more. So we're embodying a devoted spiritual practice. We're proud of it, passionate about it, and saying yes to carving out that time daily, to use the tools that we have. And there are so many. I was making a list the other day of the spiritual practice tools and techniques and practices and devotions and daily devotions that I've used over time. And there are so many, and it would be just fun to switch it up and yet to still have that grounded meditation practice daily and spiritual mind treatment. And then using all of the other tools and techniques that we know as metaphysicians and mystics. We know these things work. They do. And I can say this because I am not just reading about it and learning about it. I am at school with it, my inner school on earth. And I'm taking these practices, and dynamic changes are happening right now for me in my life. All sorts of things in wondrous ways. And you know, moving home just like so spontaneously, and the new home being closer than I could ever imagine, and everything that I had visioned for in the past year. So it may, you know, it wasn't it took time with my spiritual practice, and yet it happening did not take time. That was a spontaneous invitation that I didn't have to work for. I didn't have to look. I didn't have to make a call for. It was just offered through conversation with somebody. And that is how spirit works its best. When we try and manipulate and make it happen and change the outer and do something to shift it and think, if I do that, then that will happen, and then that will happen. And if I call that person, then that person will know about it, and it will all just click into place. That's the human mind trying to logicalize and make it work so that it feels safe. How about letting go and letting God? So the next point here is that a woman of power is not defined by circumstance or environment. No, we're not defined by it. We use it as a mirror to see where we can do the healing, where we can do the work, the revealing, so that we allow ourselves to cycle around the spiral and then see it from a different place, a healed place, and then live from the new. We use the environment. We do not blame it, shame it. I mean, if we do that, then take that into spiritual practice as well, because we're not doing a spiritual bypass here. We're using every single piece, every crumb of our lives, every single thing that we see that we don't like and we think should be different in all areas. Use it. Use it as a way of making the change by befriending it, not because we suddenly like it, although we're being grateful for it, but because what we're doing is befriending the messaging that it has, the triggering points, the places for healing within us. I can then look at what I don't think is acceptable and say, well, this too is God expressing. And if I'm not happy with it, what is it within me that I can resolve and dissolve? And then when I do that, I shift. I have a shift in perception. I'm not blaming it. I'm not making that my victim story. I'm using it to make a change. So then I reveal, and the appearance changes. There is a different appearance for my life because I'm then accepting things in a different way. It's very powerful. And it's a practice. It's a daily practice because we're wired to moan and to groan and to complain about what isn't working properly. We're wired for that. We're hardwired. And the brain wants to look for fault before it looks for the good that's happening here. So this is a practice. This comes back to the first one of personal self-awareness. You see how these are interconnected. We're aware and we embody a spiritual practice and we look at what's around us and we're not defined by it. And I'm not blaming it, shaming it, or trying to change it. I am knowing that I transform me, the way that I see it, the way that I feel it. It takes courage and it takes passion. Because with all of this, if I'm not seeing what I want to see in my life, if I'm not seeing it, then I'm the one that has to be passionate enough to want to change the way I see it. We can only change it as we see it. If I'm seeing it in a way that is negative, if I'm seeing it from a place of victimhood, then of course that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. So the last one, and this is not the last one by any means, because I wrote 40 of them. This is one, and we're gonna stop here for now. This one is taking full responsibility. We have to have courage for this. Oh, yes. Because it's not always that I want to say, okay, what am I really thinking? What am I really habitualizing? What am I really intending here? What is my true value underneath this? And am I living into this value, or am I just sidewashing my values because I think they don't matter right now, but they will do in half an hour? Taking full responsibility is a biggie. It means then that we get an opportunity to really stabilize ourselves. To be fully responsible means to know that we have it all within right now. We're responding and we're able to respond to whatever's going on without trying to make it about someone else. I'm sure Reverend Gill and Robin have talked a lot about this on their show, Rockin' the Love, which is on a Wednesday. And I feel this is a really powerful, powerful piece here, because this empowers, this is self-empowerment. This is where I can look at my life and something I might want to say to somebody or that I'm feeling not happy with. And I get to have a conscious conversation within myself, drawing my own boundaries, being responsible for my feelings, for the feelings within me, being responsible for the words that I'm choosing to speak, being responsible for this situation, and being responsible for speaking up when I need to or when I'm called to, and not just pretending that I don't need to speak out and say what I really feel. Because when I do that, I'm then denying myself. That's not living from a place of passion. That's living from a place of shame, feeling unworthy, feeling undeserving, and not really taking that ownership for who I am and whose I am. These are 4 attributes or qualities for being a woman of power. And I believe that on many levels, Queen Elizabeth II held these attributes. I believe that she had to. She had to walk that path and she had to know who she was. And so we may not all agree on her common goal. And yet, possibly in your heart, there's somewhere where you can see her and say to yourself, I'm willing to look at those attributes and to see where within me I can shine them out in my world, in my way. And I can use this individual as a role model for living a passionate life. And it's not always just easy to see her passion, as she was extremely reserved, quietly confident, and you never really knew what she was thinking. True power. And so I hold her in prayer. I hold the United Kingdom in prayer. I hold individuals around the world in prayer right now. Those 52 Commonwealth countries that voluntarily wanted to be a part of the Commonwealth because they felt her energy. This was not about restricting people or bullying people into signing treaties. This was about countries wanting to belong to something that she was a leader for. And so I hold our country in prayer as new king comes in. And that he, knowing that he turns in towards those divine feminine attributes within him and shines them through with his own woman of power. Yeah. And I hold every individual on this planet in prayer, knowing that we each have this opportunity to use these attributes, to know who we are, to take responsibility, to know that we're not defined by our circumstance, and to prioritize self-awareness at the center of everything. So how we show up is how we show up, and it will show up. How we show up shows up. There we go. And I honor you for being here right now. And I'm going to just complete here by letting you know that you can connect with me. Welcome to Women of Power. This is coming to the end of the show here. And to find out more about the Women of Power Alliance, tune in, go to my website, lauratopic.com, and you can find out about the network where women come together to join, to skill share, to support each other, to heart share, and to work through certain practices to shine their light in the world. And I hold this space for women around the world, because that's what we are here to do right now, is to support, love, and grow ourselves and each other. You can find out more about this, lauratopper.com, or connect with me on Facebook Messenger if there's anything you want to know more. And of course, supporting this wondrous focus ministry that I know of as New Thought Media Network, sharing into the network and seeing all of the wonderful broadcasts and programming and intentional teachings that we have here, these new thought teachings that allow us to delve within our hearts and make changes from within, not just for our own lives, because as we do this for ourselves, we are doing this for humanity and beyond. So we take responsibility right now. And we can right now in this moment. Blessings, love, and peace as you right now. Peace in your heart. Peace in your heart. Until next time. Bye for now.